Hello, hello, and welcome to Yin on the Rocks on the King Hero channels. I'm here with Dagmar Silva and myself, Beth Martins. So we're just going to chat a few minutes and see who comes on. And Patricia is here. Hello, Patricia. Nice to see you. Greetings from Kingsville, Ontario, Canada. More Canadians. I've met a lot more Canadians in the last couple of years, interestingly, than I knew before. And do you know a lot of Canadians, Dagmar?
I know the only Canadian I need to know.
The important one.
Yeah. Actually, I do know one who used to be a good friend of mine, and I hope she still is. But she's an actress in Canada.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice. That's great.
so I've traveled to your part of the world, but never Winnipeg.
Okay, well, you must come.
I want to, as like I was telling you before. It looks like we have a hurricane coming.
Right. Intense.
I don't know
Intense.
if I want to be here again because it's now literally a year anniversary of the Helene that was here in Asheville. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, and it's getting dark, and it's got that whole like, oh, what's going to happen?
Right. What was Helene like for you guys?
Oh, it was intense. As a matter of fact, I want to get into that because that was literally when I started this protocol, like a couple of days before Helene. And I think Helene contributed greatly to my being able to absorb the principles. So,
Really? In what way?
Well,
Get into it.
yeah, we get into it. We get into it when we start to get into it.
Okay.
Even though I know for you and for me, talking about this whole subject is pretty natural. We do it all the time. So it's kind of exciting to do it in a more public forum.
Exactly. I was thinking also because this is such a new show, we're at episode 6 here only. And by the way, we would love your help sharing it out. This channel is badly shadow banned. Sometimes I get off a live stream and it says there's less views than there were people at the live stream. So yeah, it's kind of sad, I have to say. If I was maybe where I was at 10 years ago in the more normal algorithms and stuff like that, it would be a totally different thing. I lost my first channel to talking about controlled opposition. They obviously didn't like that subject. And yeah, so we would love your help if you guys have been enjoying this. I've been getting feedback from people. I've been actually starting to talk to quite a few people in the last little while in the community of in my community, dare I say. Some people are really offended when you say my community as if I own it, which I don't. It's in my world and my perception and on my email list. So it seems like my is a correct word to use. Dagmar is a writer and very good with the language. Do you think it's still okay to say my community? Oh, and there's Maya. Maya for my.
I think it makes it more personal and intimate. Unless you're like a real asshole who's going, my community, bitches, then it's a different tone. But
tone is everything, isn't it?
Tone is like 90% of the communication,
Yeah.
And you really can't describe tone because people are unaware of their tone. And they're like, what are you talking about? I just said, I love you.
You're right.
It's your problem.
Yeah, exactly. I remember I used to, as I was a young, well, I wasn't a young parent, but parent of a young son. I mean, I was kind of young. I was younger than I am now. And I noticed I have a broken thing. Well, I've been noticing that for years, that I have a broken thing in my bathroom. It's because I lost it at one point. And I lost my temper and I chucked something at the light switch and then it broke in half. It just it was one of those like, oops, I didn't mean to lose it. And I didn't mean to break anything and have a lifelong memory of this thing. I should just replace it and be done with it. But I was thinking back to that and I went like, wow, I've come a long way from, because there's no more losing it. Now, neither do I have a young child. So I want to just say that it's that can be pretty different and push you to limits in a day in and day out situation where, I was single mumming it, Not that the dad wasn't involved, he was, but it was, yeah, just stress off the charts every single day. And what was my point of telling that?
Well, I think you're talking about how you deal with emotional intensity, and for sure that hopefully, with every year of your life, you do ripen into something like a even a better version of yourself, rather than going the other way, which is becoming an old ornery fart. you
Right.
know so it just makes me think of um like one of the main reasons that I noticed too, that since I've been eating this way, I just have so much more organic, natural access to my humanity, my feeling realm. I'm able to feel more openly without it, and especially because I am an actress, so I do tend to, or need to, run a lot of feeling through my instrument. And pretty much every diet that I've ever been on, that was like always the point of it, is like, okay, how can I become stronger, more resilient, and more vulnerable? Not be afraid of being vulnerable, and run a lot of emotion, which is running a lot of energy through my body. Sustain that. It's one of those. I think it's a tragedy when you see these great artists or people who just give us amazing gifts through music or film or whatever, painting, but they as they get older, their biology can't keep up with their creativity.
Mhm.
And so I feel like I'm very passionate about like nourishments for creatives. The people who create in the world. I mean, everybody's creating, but people who consciously create and make that their life, to support that. And it could be just, somebody who's an incredible mom and is constantly creating an amazing environment for the house or for the child. It doesn't have to be the great opus of a book. So,
Right. Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's a big spectrum. There's creativity at so many different levels, and they really are different. And especially where you set your work as that, like you gave yourself that job to be creative.
mhm.
And so it's not to diminish any other form of creativity like gardening or cooking or anything like that, but where you go to the level of professionalism, and people depend on you for that and are paying you for that. It's a whole different kind of a level. So hats off to anyone who does that. It's full of its own kind of things. And you were talking about emotion. I don't know if it's time to get into it, but I realized once I started on a genuinely low poison life, then I realized how I had been running with incredible weights on, and it was miraculous to have got into such physical, near death actually in the earlier days, and not too recent, or not too far from the recent days either, where you're just so compromised that most people would end up or a lot of people could end up bitter and angry about the whole thing, and you know go really into victim consciousness and blaming everybody and everything, and then the tendency also to rise above it and effectively bypass reality in favor of some utopian kind of ideal that's not actually real, but to ride that razor's edge and still be a good person and still be able to function and do things. So yeah, we'll get deep into that, the effects on
Mhm.
all parts of the life. And hello, Carrie Martin, nice to see you. And Em is here as well. I'm going to get a chance to meet you in person, hopefully this weekend. I'm hoping that will be the case. I had another Winnipegger reach out to me today. They say that they're in Transcona, so I'm going to go and meet them for coffee at a place called Empty Cup, which
Ooh.
is way better. You know an Empty Cup? You
No,
could,
I'm just saying that you're going to meet them live. That's awesome.
yeah. They said it'd be more fun in person, and what the heck? Yeah. I'm always open to that. So, by the way, if there's anybody out there in Winnipeg and we haven't met or connected, then feel free to reach out. I think there's always room for more connection. It's a good thing. So yeah, I think maybe it's a good time to jump in and talk about this. I kind of ended up loving our title here, "Got Low Poison." And one of the reasons is because if like take it anybody in the chat, can you guess what that's a play on? I just want to sort of prove this point that it's so I'll just turn that off. It if you don't recognize it, then it's possible you weren't in North America. Maybe it was only a North American thing, might have not been European.
You have to envision a little bit of white on your
Oh, we're
mind.
giving it away. Oh, yeah. Just joking. Just joking. And
Yeah,
M got it. Yeah,
but
the
I mean,
mustache.
it's perfect. It's perfect for this whole thing because that is, it was like poisoning and advertising.
Well,
Um,
that was the fun part, right? Like, because it is exactly that's it pushed milk so hard my entire life. You can't not recognize that advertising campaign.
mhm.
And then many people played on it and used it in a different way, like we are, to evoke that the power of that campaign. And then yeah, the toxicity. I think that there's always been. Should we start with dairy products and milk and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I first wanted to just mention the whole thing because right now the hurricane is coming. And it's a kind of in my mind right now because it's literally going to be a year, and my this is kind of commemorates my 1 year, not just the hurricane, but it's literally when I started the low poison diet. And I was thinking how it contributed to my really grasping some of the most profound principles of this, which for me was the listening aspect. Like, I don't know any other way of eating that emphasizes, and this is, of course, we have to pay homage to, Dr. Garrett Smith. He keeps driving this home over and over again. It's like, listen, listen. And, it's like, what does that really mean? And I remember when this whole thing happened, when we had no electricity for a couple of weeks, we had no water for 2 months, we had no Wi-Fi and no internet for also about 2 months, not no cell phone for about 2 weeks. So there was, and no water. And so literally there was so much space and time to listen and feel. And I realized, like, I wonder if it hadn't been for that, would I have been so attentive and learned that principle? And I'm still learning it. It's something I have to keep learning over and over again because the spell from the past, like the Got Milk campaign or whatever else the spell was, I lived in Los Angeles. I mean, it was just nonstop hypnosis. It went from coconuts to coconut oil to chlorella to spirulina to turmeric to the raw chocolate thing. It was just like non-stop. The superfoods, and what else was there? I mean, it's just like I have a whole list. And the spell is so strong that you could be feeling stuff, but nobody ever put the principle inside my whole, the gestalt of like kicking the can down the road. And I kind of was aware that some things I felt really good on in the beginning, but then it started to wane. But I would hold on to the idea of it, and I said, well, and like Garrett often says, the people who were pushing that particular product that they were selling would say, oh no, you just have to take more of it, or you have to do more of this, or, oh no, you not just intermittent fasting, you have to do 24 hours, not eat, there's all these, constantly pushing. And so I'm just so grateful that I had that time to experience in real time, like recognizing what is the difference between feeling the toxicity from eating a bunch of poisonous things to stopping the intoxing and then feeling the poisons that I've been carrying around with me, like in all my little suitcases and my tissues and my liver, who knows where else I've been carrying it. Well, obviously it's somewhere inside me. I wish it was a suitcase that I could just take off and, spill out the poison. So, yeah, it's just it's so resonated for me as a actor. Now it's starting to pour, so I don't know if can
Oh,
you hear?
wow. Yeah, we can.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
it's
That a thought. I'm like, oh, she turned the fan on again.
no, it's not the fan. This is
Just kidding.
actual serious rain, and
Right.
there's a guy out working on, and the walls are open outside. Okay, blessings. May he be protected by the gods of dryness.
Right.
But
Yeah.
anyway, so I just wanted to just kind of share that, this is my, and I also, this is the first time, it's been a year, so I feel now I'm qualified to at least just share my journey. Like, I don't like to share things unless it's just really, really intimate people, but when I'm just, going through the process, and I know it's going to be more and more things I'm going to be learning. So I'm just really kind of excited that we get to talk about this in in public.
Yeah, yeah, very good. Yeah, so just to let everybody know that today we're going to talk about low poison food. We're going to talk about the work of Dr. Garrett Smith and Toxic Bile Paradigm. We'll probably talk about some of the roots of that with a few disclaimers, at least from me. I'm gonna definitely do that, not to mislead anyone. I've always, by the way, been the kind of person that when I find a good thing, I take to the streets with it, and I don't wait a year to start saying it. And it's been pretty interesting because people, sometimes they follow and take advice, but more often they just look at me probably going like, okay, well, let's see how this turns out for her. Which I also do, right? Like people go and do stupid things. Well, they do things in the law world, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll wait as much as 7 years, because sometimes that's how long it takes to see any repercussions for that kind of stuff. But yeah, I've always had that instinct to, when I find a good thing, to share a good thing. And I want to congratulate everybody in this community who has followed some of those really good things. I was talking to a woman today from Oregon, and she was saying that, like, when she heard Garrett Smith's stuff, she went and she started researching and studying, and she looked in, and they're all doing it. And she talked about a couple of other people that I really value. So that's just really pleasing for me, that if I get to the end of my days and enough people got some decent leads from me, then I think that's amazing. And yeah, so we're going to talk about the food fads that we've followed, sometimes food cults. Although I think I pretty much avoided being part of any cult. Maybe that's denial. I don't know. I was taking a little bit of inventory, and then we'll go deep into changes that we've seen happen on in the what's called Toxic Bile Paradigm, or Love Your Liver. I think that course may actually change its name. I'm not entirely sure. We'll talk about supplements, and I like your point about being attentive. And I remember the day when I realized how I had taken all of my, I'm a cancer survivor, right? I'm not new to this. I'm 25 years into it, and I was into it before, but more in a game way, right? Like the way a young person plays with health. And I see a lot of young people playing with health like it's a game, and they don't have nearly the high stakes that I did as a young person, where all of a sudden I've got a stage 4 lymphoma and I'm told I'm not going to survive without a stem cell transplant. And then so the day that I really got this, that Garrett's website, for example, is called Nutrition Detective, and at first you're like, oh, that's cute, and a little magnifying glass and stuff. But then I started to internalize, like, oh, it's not that he's the detective, it's that I have to be the detective.
Hmm.
And every other health trend I ever followed,
Hmm.
really, I have to admit this, and I bet many people would have a hard time admitting this, but it's not because I noticed, oh, this is good and that's good. There is some, but even what you think to be good is not good, because it's really shutting things down, and then you feel good. But yeah, when I turned it around, and it's a detective move, or the detective work, and how every little move you can study what the result is. But in that normal natural health world that I say every chance I get, and I'll say it right now, that is intensely weaponized against the people. maybe more so than the medical system,
Yeah.
then now I'm in a really different place of being able to observe and be much more scientific about the process,
Yes.
about right, like about just like, oh, when I add this one thing, not like would say when I was sick with cancer, that a naturopath had me on probably 60 or 80 supplements at one time every single day. Like it would take me half an hour to pop pills after a meal. And so how could he possibly say, oh, that worked? It's like,
Yeah.
what worked?
Yeah.
I don't know anything.
It's like what worked is that you were obedient and you took it. He told you to take it, you took it, and you tried to believe in it. And yeah, and again, all those supplements, what it's just the little poisons shutting down your detox. And so of course you feel better. Like, but it can go on for a long time. Like I was just thinking today, like the diet that I lasted the longest was the one that was a high fat, raw fat. It was raw, so much better. Uh, raw dairy, raw eggs, raw meat. I did not like that. So I kind of made it half and half. But I realize now, yeah, it lasted a long time because after like the raw vegan and all that, what I was doing was I was giving my body the fat that so that everything that was floating around in there could be sequestered and driven deeper into my tissues or my liver. And so, of course, I felt better, but I had to keep eating the butter. And if I stopped, I'd be like, and it's amazing that I'm not like 200 pounds, but I did gain weight that I could not lose, like the visceral, my waistline. And I could feel that it's doing something. Like I literally felt like I was packing, but not the way I'd like to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's start on that because I also went for the high fat, and God bless her, one of my all-time best friends. She is like the queen of fat, and she taught me how to make fat bombs. And we thought they were just like the best thing ever. Although my son was always been smarter than me, I have to say, because he always rejected high fat. He would reject those fat bombs. He's like, that's terrible. Don't do that. Or if I tried to put a spoon of oil of any kind in his mouth, he'd be, what are you doing to me? Trying to kill me. And so, yeah, he was smart, but I would just gob on the fat. And I noticed that the more fat I ate, the skinnier I got. And so it can go both ways in this path, right? That your body uses that fat, exactly what you said, to sequester off the mostly fat soluble toxins that are the real demons in our world. Because as long as they're fat soluble, they can be stored compared to water soluble that might just move through the body. And so, yeah, just like gobbing, I was so proud of myself. I would just it couldn't get enough of the butter or enough of the coconut oil on there. It'd be thick like cheese.
Can I tell you what I used to make? Oh my God. I would take raw butter and I would chop up some nuts, of course, which is more fat and more copper, right? And then I would take some cacao nibs and some coconut flakes and I would turn them into little balls. Yeah, more copper. And more lead, whatever was in the chocolate, who knows. And then I would put them in the refrigerator and have these little fat bombs, oh my God. I mean, this just tells me what a miracle our body is,
That we survived. Exactly.
Yeah.
Just to finish the thought quickly,
Sorry.
just in case I left anybody hanging. So it can go the way of storing fat so people gain weight. They're actually better off. Now I turned into, and there was a point that I know I turned into this, and it was more post 2020 when I really stopped eating. But you can then turn into somebody who doesn't put on weight, who is skinny. People have always told me that. I'm like, oh, you're too thin, Beth. And so then it's a little scarier because you don't have storage in your arms and your legs and your butt. Your storage is all going to be in the liver. And so, we in the society really we tend to prize the thin body over the fat body, just with the conditioning. of
Mhm.
how people are supposed to look, supposedly. But yeah, you're actually worse off without body fat. So I was wondering if there's going to come a time where I start to gain weight, and I'm going like, no, don't do it. I don't want to. So the vanity, but yeah, fat and that whole. I mean, let's call some spades spades, just to give people half a chance here, about Weston A. Price, and how, we were early adopters of that, thanks to a few of my friends that went looking for these traditional methods, and the word natural. So I was listening. I'm going to pick on my friend a little bit. I don't think she watches my podcast, so we don't have to worry about that. But I listened to something recently, and she was arguing that, like, this is natural. I think it was about, like, those peptide things that are going around. This is natural, but this is not natural. And so the constant assumption that's being made is that natural equals healthy, unnatural equals unhealthy.
Mhm.
Now, it's true that unnatural often equals unhealthy, but not all the time either, by any stretch of the imagination. And then this thing that, what is that a logical fallacy, by the way?
Yes, it is a logical fallacy,
Right.
because as we found out, a more refined salt is a lot better, as is a more refined shea butter, as opposed to the unrefined, because they pull out some of those big poisons. So it's, for some people, it's overwhelming to have that many contradictions,
Yeah.
because especially like what you started off with in the beginning, when you said how, um, everything is so weaponized for the health nuts. Like it's to think that the alternative world is not as weaponized as the medical world is crazy, because they're not going to just let a whole bunch of people go. They're going to push all that, all the natural stuff. And like the medical medium guy, for example, I remember when he came out, the Whole Foods ran out of celery for months because everybody was juicing celery because it's gonna save your life. And I knew so many people of every age, young and old, going, oh my God, oh, I'm gonna eat peaches and I'm gonna be fine. That's
Right.
what I need for my condition, you know.
Exactly.
Um,
You know what the kicker there? When I look back, I saw how, oh, celery, juice celery. Do I go and I look and read about celery? Do I look for any studies about the components of celery? Do I research in any way? No, I didn't. Full disclosure, I never researched. I would hear something on the grapevine. I'd read it in a magazine, or my friend would tell me, and I would just go and start gobbing out on that thing.
okay, I have to confess. I because I developed a sun allergy after I really went whole hog with the raw vegan thing, right? And I mean, just, you know, we should talk about, like, the vegetable world and the animal world, where the poisons are. But I researched all these things because I was like, it was solar urticaria. I would go in the sun for, like, 3 minutes, and I'd get like these, wherever the sun hit, like almost welts, right? And I researched, and I even found it said, that celery makes you photosensitive. But
Ah,
because the spell was so strong, and I found this in my old notes, I'm going, God, I knew this. And I just kept doing it because I kind of looked over and go, that can't be. What, celery? Come on. We know it's full of, these great minerals, which we need. It's like nature's Gatorade. Well,
yeah.
so it just amazes me. It made me have a lot more compassion, because this it's not easy, to suddenly step out of something that's been like a safety fence of, like, well, I have to believe in something, and I'm pretty smart. I mean, I went to a Ivy League school, and I was pre-med. I always joke, like, I'm a scientist trapped in an actress's body. And I was writing research papers for my mom, who was an anesthesiologist, like, in high school. So I was, but still, I was like, it's amazing how, when you repeat something, how deeply in it goes. And I just take my hat off to everyone who is willing, like the people that I've met, like you, and all the people who are on the Love Your Liver program. When I just see them, they're deep diving and going on that journey, and they're that says that's a lot. That's a transformation, you know, that someone can do that. Because I know some people who'd rather let life go and die than have to consider eating something else than what they're used to. That's so much of a shock, to the
Mhm.
system. So my head's off, and to you especially.
Thank you. So yeah, I want to respond, and then you just said, "Is there such thing as an ectomorph and endomorph?" I don't think so. I'm going to take. I I just don't think so. There's my scientific answer. What do you think, Dagmar?
I've been through that, and just for fun, let me just tell you some of the diets I've been on.
But
And
wait. No, just if we could get into that. Sorry, don't mean to be so
no,
intense.
go ahead, go ahead.
But I
Well,
was going to respond to something, but then I thought just uh,
to something
add to
else,
this, but just not to let this go so far, because we were talking about like the people who store fat and the people who store toxins in their liver and are skinny. But yeah, do you know anything about the ectomorph endomorph body?
oh, yeah, yeah. But I think that, just like in the world of psychology, you have so many different models for things, and every clock is right twice a day, or what is that saying? There's something good in everything that you can contemplate and think about, but all these different things and theories, for me, and this is like 47 years of going through stuff, trying different things. And really, I thought I was studying things, but I was just studying what other people told me is the truth. I didn't go, oh, well, let me look at this. Like now that, Garrett helped me and all of us, how to do our own research and how to be able to read some of those research papers and understand them. I feel like I actually have so much more. I'm actually stepping into my own authority about it, that I'm not just listening to what Garrett says, that I'm actually now going, oh, well, I can look up anything, huh? And I think that's extraordinary.
Yeah,
Uh,
totally.
we can have that conversation, with ourselves, that it's not just like, oh, I can't think, just tell me what to eat. So a lot of people want that. So for me, this is it's a I don't know, it's an invitation to be in a deeper relationship with what you take in, you know
Indeed, indeed.
because yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to go back again before it's gone, but like the topic of belief around food is one of the things that is um, is so intensely powerful. It's as powerful as your religion. This I learned academically, just that people's choices around worship is the same, would like take the same effort to change as it would to change somebody's food habits, for example. And and then so when you couple the belief in food, where say somebody told me, it was a naturopath actually, so somebody with what do you call credentials or some kind of credibility, not just like Joe Schmo or whatever. And they said that I should eat garlic when I have any kind of viral onset of some kind, whatever it is, that I should eat garlic. I should eat whole cloves of garlic at a time. And so I started to do that. And it immediately worked. But I have to now say worked, because it was like a miracle. I went like, oh my goodness, I could go from feeling sick, eat garlic, and I feel good. I was like, oh, well, where's this been all my life? And so as I go on in the journey, every single time those viral symptoms, you have to do that every 10 seconds now, come up, then I would go to the garlic. Well, by the end, when I finally gave up the poison garlic, which it is, then it wasn't one clove anymore. It wasn't two cloves. It wasn't even three cloves. I could have up to 6 or 8 cloves of garlic a day while I was trying to battle something, thinking that it's helping me, but it worked less and less and less because of the belief, and
Mhm.
because of what Garrett calls the duration paradox, which I find to be an absolutely invaluable principle to take in. And yeah, Em loves the garlic. That thought I did as well. Now it actually smells and tastes like poison. It's clearly is clearly that. But just quickly, I'll finish that. The duration paradox. You establish a belief. Oh, it worked, meaning it works, not it worked, and then investigate what that means. But it's this idea. So then it becomes incredibly difficult to undo because that belief got established.
Yeah.
Dagmar, I pride myself. My subject is deprogramming, right? That when it came to these food changes, I made them, but I saw the internal suffering that went on as all my whole entire belief structure around food got dismantled. And so it's no little thing.
So just for some people who may not know this, garlic, back in the day when they didn't have like autopilot in airplanes, pilots were not allowed to eat any Italian meals or any meals that had garlic in them because it would slow down their reflex by about 100 because the garlic goes right through the blood-brain barrier. So it's like a cell phone. So all this crap that's in your body and your body's doing it, the blood-brain barrier is trying to keep all this stuff from going in your brain. But when you eat the garlic, like DMSO, it opens it up and shit can come in there. That's why people feel so relaxed and woozy because there's major poisons incoming. And so you feel like, oh, I mean, that's the whole concept of feeling high, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, exactly. When I studied in India with the white bearded guru on the mountain, they actually recommended against using garlic and onions. And I'm like, huh? What? So out of this, spiritual obedience, I did that for a time and I was able to recognize how once you stop eating those things, you realize they're not good. They smell terrible. They smell terrible, uh, you know, on somebody else when they come into your space. Like you actually could be poisoned by them taking in what they're exuding through out of their pores. And then so yeah, the recommendation, if you want to meditate, don't eat garlic and onions because you won't be able to still your mind and you won't be able to be bright enough not to fall asleep. So just to add to what you were saying there. Yeah, they knew it, which was interesting. Yeah. And M says avocado and egg make her feel high. Do you want to take a pass at why that is?
Well, I'd say the egg has a lot to do with it, which again has the sulfur like the garlic. And it also has the all the amazing fat.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
And then, yeah. And then that high is something that you actually don't want, believe it or not, right? What do you get high on? You get high on drugs. You get high on caffeine. You get high on nicotine. You get high on alcohol. Exactly. And so when your food,
on raw liver. I used to do liver shots. I couldn't stand it, but even I would cut a little piece of liver. You can still see me on my YouTube channel. I just want to leave it there so people will see, like, this is what I was doing. I would put a little piece of liver in a shot glass, pour raw milk over it, and drink it like that, like a pill almost, except it was raw. And you get incredibly high. Like it's a very awesome high as opposed to like a coffee high. No heart rate going up because whatever that poison seems to really know how to work its way in there. And it's crazy that that's what I was doing, taking this horrible tasting thing. And because I believed, that's where all the nutrition is. And that's what I need. That's why I have a sun allergy.
right, right. And then to speak a little bit more on that high, that basically poisons are stimulants. They have a drug-like effect. So I got high on green juice. I started to do that. Yeah, I started to do that when I got sick with cancer. I heard juicing is like the bomb. Did I start then? Maybe I was just continuing. No, I think I'd started that before. And I would always get an altered state from it, not like a wild mushroom high or anything like that, but it would just like zing like this. Now I know it to be copper. The high of taking copper. It's the same with chocolate, right? That really wired kind of thing that eventually will turn into wired tired,
Mhm.
Fatigue and wired and insomnia and all. I suffered incredible amounts of insomnia. It's tragic because I had super high copper in my diet, mostly from greens. I would only eat greens, anything green. And
Yep.
juice at high speed. I would have like 3 bunches of cilantro in one juice,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Like incredible. I was just like, oh, if I could go back.
Um, can I just add one little thing that
Yeah.
my mom used to say when she was being trained to be an anesthesiologist? Her boss in the old country, she was terrified that her patients would die on the table, and her boss would say, "Anna, it's really hard to kill a person," and she realized that it's true. It really is. It's not easy. Especially, I mean, unless you're using a gun or a knife, but to kill them with the anesthetic or something, that's a poisoning, right? Um, but people keep coming back, or like when you see some homeless people, and you're like, wow, how are they surviving? On
I know.
no drinking, no food, no showering, and whatever else. I mean, drinking alcohol, but not water. And you're like, wow, we really that desire to be here, whatever that primal, the amygdala really kicks in and wants us here to stay alive, to keep going. So
Yeah, the tenacity of life is staggering, absolutely staggering. I remember taking my mom's cat after my mom passed away, and I thought, well, we're just walking her home for a few months. Well, it was like 5 years. And she did eventually die. We were walking her home, just the slow kind of thing. Chris unheard it. He said that finds the nice and flush kind of like a high. Yeah, it is. There's a sort of alteredness about it that you're going to notice some changes and differences. But the high of, say, eating hot peppers, which are toxic, the high of all of those substances like avocado is super high in copper as well. I ate at least an avocado every single day.
it's good.
Eggs full of, what is it, choline and huge vitamin A as well, whichever, if people don't realize, vitamin A is a poison. And it doesn't matter whether you get it out of a pill or out of a food. This is the part that people always, oh, but
It's natural.
it's God made it and it's natural. And it's like, no, actually, God did not make orange carrots, for one, right? Like that was an invention. That was a hybridization process that they pushed in order to make sure pilots in World War II couldn't see very well in Germany. So when they went night flying, can you imagine that, flying in the dark in the night and hitting targets? Nobody now could do that, right? With the quality of our eyes being damaged for a lifetime of eating vitamin A.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
yeah, Chris said he ate a bag of nuts. I used to do that, and now I know why I suffered so much. Again, the copper, like copper is evil.
That's the whole raw vegan world, the carnivore, the raw vegan, and then the believers in medical. They all are covered in terms of I really do think that the food is the biggest psyop ever. The food, which includes herbs and supplements and all these things. It's just it's such a deep hole that rabbit hole, that no matter which way you enter it, you're going to be like, wow. I mean, you can go into the Ayurveda, into the Chinese, and you're going to find like poisons everywhere. um, you know um, and yet we still live to be, some people up to their 90s, so that people say that that's proof that those things help. I think that we are meant to live much longer. I think that we do have that capacity, because if we were to match ourselves to animals, we really should, the lifespan of most animals who are still in the wild, not the ones in the zoo, because they're feeding them oftentimes not what they would eat in nature. But we would probably be living to like my guess would be like about 150. I think you have to multiply the age at which you mature sexually by, I think it's 7. So you multiply 7 times like 14 or something like that, and you get how long we should or could be living.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
And also what Garrett keeps talking about is how we pass toxicities down from generation through the mother,
exactly.
mostly. So even though my grandmother lived to be like 95, but she passed on all her deficiencies and her toxicities to her son, and then he passed them down to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's another logical fallacy is like, oh, my grandparents did it, so then therefore it's right for me. And then in addition to what you said, that the toxicity gets passed down to the generations, you can only give your child the health of the liver that you have, right? You can't, it's not going to have a healthier liver than you.
yeah,
And then what we don't also notice is that our ancestors were under attack. My ancestors on my dad's side fled for their lives under attack of the in the Bolshevik pre-Bolshevik revolution, but it was still the Bolsheviks, and um, and they were starving, and they would eat anything, and
yeah,
they had to eat anything. So yes, of course they're going to eat high fat. They're not going to throw away any part of an animal that you could get a calorie from, because poisoned is better than dead. And as Garrett says, like the slow death is better than the fast death,
I
right?
love that. Poisoned is better than dead. Okay.
Right? Because our bodies, we have this, that life has tenacity, and it's going to try every way not so that you don't die right now.
Yeah.
Every possible way. It's like amazing miracle. I should have died several times already.
Did you, like, when you first learned about all the A and the copper and the D, the vitamin D, did you like start connecting all these dots and like looking back retrospectively at your life or your parents' life? And I started to like put so much, like historically, like you just brought up your ancestors. I realized my mom, when she was a hidden child for 5 years, hiding from the Nazis, and all they had those days, the lard on everything. They could make bread and lard and bacon. And when she came out of hiding, her father and mother didn't recognize her because she had the alcoholic red cheeks, and
Right.
she survived. And then after that, she kept getting all these lung issues that kept coming up, and everybody assumed, I'm sure the trauma had a lot to do with it, but she was just like eating, eggs and pork all the time. That was all that was available during that time, and some bread if you could find it. But a lot of it made so much sense of her medical history. And then I found blood tests that I did in 1978. And I'm going, oh my God, my copper was already high. And looking at my ferritin going, what? Even then? And of course, it makes sense because of what I was eating then. My 8 cups of vegetables a day.
Exactly. I know I was so good at eating the vegetables. One of the little notes I have for myself is that, when I started to garden, I would eat my way through the garden. I'd weed one, eat one, weed one, eat one, or thin one, eat one. And that was actually the straw that broke the camel's back for me. That's when I had a full stop eating all of this fresh, like absolutely couldn't be any fresher, off the plant, off the tree, gorging out on the orchard that's not far from here, and just getting every bit of, as you go into the summer seasons and spring season, you get a lot more fresh food in this world. Like we tend to, our fresh gets really bleak in the winter. Now I'm not going to mind. It's like, thank God, because that'll be a good change. And you have this idea that it's good for you, and I kept on eating and eating and eating, and then boom, I couldn't digest food. Like it was over for me.
Me too.
And that went on for 90 days when I couldn't digest any food. The result of it, I don't know if you want to talk about fasting as a cult and a religion. Like, sorry guys, I'm just going to call it exactly what it is. It's actually dangerous. I know I had a bad experience. I went into a certain kind of shock. My adrenals flipped out, like I was in severe trouble. Like just not a good state at all. And I think that one of the most valuable things that I've learned from Garrett Smith is that your body will not, like, sure, great, you're not intoxing. That's the one thing everybody, I think, is enjoying the experience of taking in no poison because you're not taking in any food. but your body will never in a million years detox without food, right?
Hmm.
Detox is stimulated by eating.
Yeah. And I keep telling myself that it's not a no poison diet, it's a low poison diet, because we can deal with some of it, and of course we can't control what they're doing around us. So I always tell myself, like, yes, but I can control what I put inside me privately. I can't control the farmer, but it's still, as long as you're eating muscle meat and you're not eating the organs, it's like the animal is sacrifices itself as a filter, just like our lungs sacrifice themselves as a filter, when we're inhaling, and same thing with the kidneys, right? So yeah, it's just, we have control in some areas, and to me, that's what makes this so empowering. And it's the only diet I know that actually focuses on more on not intoxing, so that you don't have a whole bunch to keep detoxing. And then that's what all the big companies make money on, is they're selling you detoxification herbs and protocols. It's all about the detox. And in LA, all the movie stars are like, I'm going on a week-long detox before I shoot, and they go to some spa, where they're being given juices and they don't eat and they hate it, and then they come home. I remember this even back in like 1980. I was working on a soap, and one of the stars of the soap was like, let's go and do a week-long detox. And we went, and it was just like, meager little weird meals that are just disgusting, and juicing and enemas, giving yourself enemas. But on the way home, on the bus, she already had a big thing of Haagen-Dazs. So it's like, oh, we just detox for a week. Aren't we great? Like,
Mhm.
there's no understanding of of the process that our body's doing all the time, which is detoxing nonstop. So
Yeah.
why not go in the direction that the horse is riding and support that process? Yeah.
Right. And back to fasting, if I could talk about that for a little bit more, because they our controllers want to starve us. It's true, right? Like the way they do it at first is by flooding us with poison food, which is a kind of starvation, right? When you fill yourself up with something that has zero usable nutrients or very low usable nutrients, then your body is starving, even if you're huge. And that's what mostly when I see people that are severely overweight, my first thought is they're starving, right? And that's one of the reasons that the body, well, I think that's probably a fallacy of some kind, that your body holds on to weight when you're starving, because it definitely go both ways. I see, it's based on the liver health, really. And so, then the first thing that happens when the pandemic hits is we start hearing this, like, oh, food supplies are going to disappear, and you go to the store, and the toilet paper is all missing. So it must mean the food's going to disappear too, right? I met somebody the other day, and he said he survived the great toilet paper uh, lack or deficiency or crisis. That's what he called it, a crisis kind of thing. And so they're preparing us for starvation. And that's always been the way to take out a civilization. When you go to a Chinese grocery store right now, you will find a product that is made of every single part of a plant or an animal. They don't waste much of anything in that culture. You'll see the eyeballs and the cheeks and right, all the weirdo parts of the body that we don't really want to have anything to do with. And it's part of that starvation mentality that
Mhm.
my grandma growing up, she would say that, oh, at Christmas time we would get a mandarin orange in our stocking, and this was like a miracle. Once a year they would get to eat an entire orange. And so that was just part of that whole manufacturing of poverty and the depression, and and starving the people. So I think fasting is part of getting you into that belief, right? Because when they started scaring us about the food trucks won't come, that's when I stopped eating enough. It's like I was preparing myself. Well, if I'm really little, then it'll be harder to starve me because I don't need much. kind of thing, right? Like it was just crazy unconscious thinking going on. So yeah, I mean I couldn't be more at this stage of the game, I couldn't be against fasting more. And I do know of a death recently that somebody died fasting.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean one person is nothing. So it's really not evidence of any kind. But I just think that it's a dangerous way to go because your body won't detox, and it really, really needs to.
And you're in fight or flight. You're in emergency mode when you're not eating.
Yes.
Every every everything in your body knows that this is not good. Why would somebody not eat? And not by choice. That does not compute. To the animal in our body, that is an emergency. Just like jumping into a freezing ice cold river is not a sign of like all is well.
Right.
So it's like when
Right.
you look at all those people who do that, and I'm not saying that it's not a good thing. Like if you actually live in Siberia, well, sure, if you need to take a bath and you don't have any wood or whatever, and you go and do the cold plunge, okay. But I don't think that us living in a modern world where we have everything we need for us to plunge into a cold, tub full of ice is ridiculous, because we're already living in a cold tub of ice through just the EMFs, let's say, or the daily kind of foods or the coffee or whatever, all these other kind of things that make you speed up and think that there's some emergency going on. I'm
Mhm.
sure the electromagnetic frequencies are a big part of it, because the animal in our body doesn't necessarily live in our ears, but it lives in our nerves, which are, yeah, the ears too. But I mean, it doesn't have to be loud for us to, like, if you hear an explosion, everything in you is like, something's off, or a loud dog barking, right? We're designed to be alert and ready to, fight, flee, or fawn, that's my favorite one, or freeze. So it's like, why do, I mean, you look at these Wim Hof people, and I'm sorry if there are some Wim Hof people here. I get the high of it, because you do get high, and I've done it. When
See,
you do
another high.
Yeah,
Mhm.
when you do the Wim Hof breathing, whoa, I mean, it's a good practice once in a while, to see how long you can hold your breath. But I think it's much better, because when you do the hyperventilating, which you do as part of his breathing, then you can hold your breath for like 5 minutes. But I like the Buteyko form of breathing, which is exactly the opposite of Wim Hof. You breathe so gently that not even the hairs in your nose are moving. And it's a really great way to calm your system down if you do feel like you're getting a panic attack or you're speeding up, which brings me to the whole thing of, how do I know when I am detoxing, let's say, too fast? Um,
Mhm. Yeah,
um,
before we jump, could I respond to that just about the ice baths? Because I feel proud of myself that I never wanted to do that. I'm like, nope. I don't care if it's showing up on your TikTok every single day, someone dumping the ice on their head or whatever. It was just a no for me. And then when I heard Garrett say that ice is for dead people, I'm like, yes.
oh
Oh,
yeah,
I knew it. I knew it.
love that. Yeah.
And then so what it actually ends up causing when you now we live in a very cold climate. 6 to 8 months of the year we can have extremely like crappy weather, and I'm well aware that when you go out and you get too cold, what happens? You get sick. This is not just a wives' tale. This is actually the truth. And what happens when you're getting sick is are dumping bile. Now,
Mhm.
people think, oh, that's great. You're dumping bile, you're detoxing. It's like, no, dumping bile means you're flooding your circulatory system with toxic bile that is only designed to be in the gut at best.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not good for the gut either. So when you have bile floating in your blood, then you're going to be getting the headache, and you're going to be getting the runny nose, and you're going to be getting a cough, and you might get a skin rash, and you might get nausea because you've got the bile up in your stomach where it's not supposed to be. So that's what putting yourself under stress of any kind, but the cold stress particularly does. It causes a bile dump. You're literally making yourself sick. Now the one place that I think could be good for things like cold plunges, or climbing the impossible mountain, or making yourself do something that is way outside your comfort zone physically or mentally or emotionally, is that you get some confidence in yourself, right? Like the way that men need to have more confidence in themselves and be able to come out and speak and take action and stand up and all of that kind of thing. It helps for that.
There's another use of it that we had in the old country. Why am I talking so much about the old country today? I don't know, but it's just connecting to it. One of the techniques that they had back in my father's era was that if you were an alcoholic, let's say, that was like the worst addiction you could have there. There were no drugs at that time. It was more like alcohol for the regular people. What they would do is that they would, it was like shock therapy, breaking a pattern. They would throw them in cold water in a lake
Right.
and then have them come out, but only for a second. And it worked because it's like a pattern reset. Your body starts fresh and from the shock of it. So I guess it's, it's okay to be in fight or flight for, a couple of weeks as you're being dunked in the cold water, as opposed to being an alcoholic. I could see that's a useful way to use the principle of putting your body into shock.
Exactly. Yeah, pattern interrupt is really good. I use it in my work with people, but I use it really sparingly, because if you use pattern interrupt too much, it's bad. It becomes a pattern and it's not an interruption anymore, right? So that's the thing about this repeated cold plunge, that this is all it's doing is putting your body in a chronic state of fight or flight. And
Yeah.
this is very, very unhealthy. There couldn't literally be, well, there's probably more unhealthy things.
But it's like you're putting your body into a state of fight or flight on top of the fight or flight that you're already in. You know what I mean? So it's intensifying, it's layering over what you're already like living. And if you're living in a modern world, my God, I mean, if my phone were to ring right now, it would be like, oh, there's nonstop, something's happening.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
exactly. Exactly. And just more about the starvation. So have you heard of the Russian women who didn't eat for 2 years, no water for a year? So this I'm suspicious of, and it's nothing against you, Bajina, but there was many stories glorifying not eating and breatharianism, and oh, you don't need food. And I mean, even one of the people that I follow, his work, Lester Levinson, he said we only eat because we're afraid to die. So that's kind of interesting. But I think it's the promotion of starvation. That's I don't know. That's my spidey sense about it.
it's the promotion of starvation and also the kind of romanticizing of death. Uh,
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
when I mean, in films and also in when you look at magazines and you look at the kind of makeup they're using on women nowadays, I mean, it's literally like the black eyes, and the dark lips, and the expression on their face is generally like, a mask of death.
Yeah, they
Uh,
don't smile.
yeah, but it's all like, I'm impenetrable, I'm dead.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Let's see. Yeah. Bajina walks barefoot in the snow back in Poland. Used to put children to sleep on cold weather. Oh, darn it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
Reality.
I
Everyone is afraid to lose. Yeah,
Sean,
everyone is afraid to lose their reality. Absolutely. That's the biggest fear.
yeah. Yeah, and I guess that's what I mean. On our other shows, we're trying to like become friendly with the unknown, and to kind of shed one reality and step into another, and to start creating different stories, because that's the only way you'll recognize that all that's out there is stories that people make up and sell really well. But we can keep generating more stories or different stories. We don't have to just be served stories and eat them, which is like the same. One of the things that I realized, like when I first started on this way of eating and living, is how much it's appropriate when I thought of all the poisons that I had eaten and also all the poisons that I totally accepted. But I don't look at it like, oh, I was so dumb and it's bad. No, I feel like that's part of the journey in life here. We need something to push against that will help us recognize or give birth to our essential, whatever it is that's our essential soul. And so all those things, they're part of the path, my path. At least I look at it that way. I don't look at it like, oh God, I was so dumb. I look at it like, it's amazing. And my soul guided me. I feel when I discovered this, I was like, oh my God, I'm really, I landed somewhere that felt to me like it's something that I can live with for the rest of my life, and that I could die slower, which
Right.
is awesome, and die with more dignity. I
Right.
feel like we're all preparing for, that last breath. And um, I just want to be there. I don't want to, yeah, I want to be there fully present, and have it be something that is as beautiful and sacred as it's like walking from one room to another. If you believe in immortality, it's hard to kill immortality, and to just kind of keep going in life, that it's not like, oh God, it's worse and I did this and I'll never detoxify, to be just like, I'm just doing the best that I can right now, and just appreciate the blessing of knowing some of these things, because I don't think many people are open. You have to be in a certain place in your life to be receptive to something that is, to me, it's extremely adventurous and like really cool. But to a lot of people, it may be like, wait, I have a family. How can I like, get my kid to eat this? Yeah.
Right. Right. And I wouldn't mind addressing that also, not addressing, but talking about regrets and how you're exactly right. The point is not to beat yourself up where, but yes, notice it. It shocks me how I can hit this point of my life more than 5 decades into it, and then I will learn something for the first time that there could be a thought, "Oh, I wish I'd known this my whole entire life." And I do feel excited for people younger than me that are embarking upon this sooner. And I remember people watching me going, "Oh, I wish I knew what you know now when you're 25. I wish I had started when I was 25 because now I'm 60 and I'm, starting to approach the end of it." So there's something to be said for that doing it earlier is good. But if you just beat yourself up, then you got two problems. And I think, do we actually need resistance to learn and grow? I'll actually say no. But can we use resistance to learn and grow? 100%. So if there is resistance to the past, then you can use that as a way to find lost energy, find lost purpose, dig in and see, what's the nature of that toxicity, right? Like that's my subject in terms of, if you talk about got poison, it's like, what is the unconscious poison
Hmm.
that we're not only consuming, but we're manufacturing every single day, this process, like I shouldn't have this and I shouldn't have that. And, if only, or all that kind of thing, which can be an extremely toxic place to be, where you can't live in your present because you're busy regretting the past,
And worrying about the future.
projecting that worry onto the future. Exactly, exactly. So yeah, the boy, there's so many subjects. I wondered if we might actually end up with 2 episodes on this one, because
Yeah.
I don't want to bypass, like, let's talk about one of the really useful things that you'll hear, this would be useful to refute everything that you hear, because there's barely a health practitioner out there, especially in the health freedom movement, that doesn't have protocols. And
Mhm.
that's okay. Well, I have this condition and these symptoms. What's my protocol? Oh, bing, 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 bing. Do this and this and this and this and this. And you rub the urine on your this, and then
Oh
and
God.
then yeah, and then you do the coffee up the butt, and then, which I love enemas, but I will never ever use coffee again for that, because caffeine is definitely an insecticide. If you guys don't know,
As is nicotine.
right? And then, so yeah, that was a beautiful thing. It took me easily, I don't know, 3 months to stop asking Garrett Smith questions about what's the ratio of electrolytes that I should put in my food or my drinks. What's the
Mm,
ratio that it's supposed to be? And he's like, there is none. You're going to have to actually figure out, back to the detective work, you're going to
mhm.
have to figure out, and not just once, but usually every day you have to figure out how much magnesium do I require today? How much
Yeah.
potassium do I require today? For example, I know if I'm dumping copper, I'm starving for potassium. I finally learned to recognize the feeling of being starving for potassium. I have been my whole life, but I never actually recognized the feeling because I was busy trying to cancel it with something like usually, vitamin C or echinacea or some kind of herb or garlic or anything like that, right? And so it's really daunting when you talk about no protocols. Then people are like, "Oh, well, then there's nothing here." And it's exactly the opposite. You have to develop an intimate relationship with all of the signs of your body, and be methodical, and do one thing make one change at a time. So when you get a sign or a symptom, it's about that change for the
Mm,
most part. I mean, it's unfortunately not that simplistic because you don't know what they sprayed at us in the air that day. You don't know how EMFs are ramping up. All the stress of life is got to be factored in. But still, this no protocols is to me like growing up. It's one of the reasons that in that Love Your Liver Toxic Bile Paradigm community, there's a lot of grown-ups.
mhm. Yeah.
And even though they might be suffering a lot, they're not crybabies. They're not, for the most part, complainers. They're like, oh, learning. Oh, okay, learning.
Yeah.
Oh, right, learning and self responsibility. Oh, okay, I'll do that too.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, yeah, it's beautiful. I want to marry someone in that community. By the way, I shouldn't tell that to everybody. Pretty sure yeah, they're gonna either have to have some of these principles, or come from that community or be willing to learn them.
Yeah, that would be fun, huh? That way you can, but even if it's not from that community, you can make delicious, great meals. When you look at the list of all the things that are low poison, there's a lot. There's a lot in there. And you can, it's not focus on the ones that you can't take, oh God, no. So I let go of my bacon, for crying out loud. And the way I look at it, I'm like a master raw chocolate maker. I'm still am. And I would do it if somebody wanted it. I'd make it for them. And I have actually, but I haven't eaten it, but I make it, and I look at like all the delicious things I've eaten in my life, like my chocolates or tiramisu or incredible sauces, French, whatever. I'm like, I already did it. Why do I have to keep doing it? There's no reason. I just remember, I go, oh yeah, yeah, that was an interesting time in my life. It was enjoyable, and I'm okay watching other people enjoy it. I have no desire. Like I have these guys working here for me, and I make them like these, melted cheese, bacon, and burgers, and things that I don't eat, but I sure enjoy making it for them. And
Yeah. I have a lot of burgers, by the way, like a ton of burgers, but with a very good bun that's got flour that's not fortified. So people don't realize you don't want fortification in anything. And once you learn that, then you start to realize every stupid thing is fortified. And it's even in Canada, it is illegal to manufacture and sell flour that's not fortified. You can get away with it small scale if you buy your own like spelt grain. That's usually a reliable one, and then you grind it in the bakery. They're not going to show up and make you add crap to it. But if you buy any kind of commercial flour, for sure it's going to be fortified. And I was just back to your point also that I had this thing where every single meal, I don't think I was to the scale of gourmet that you are, but for me, every single meal had to be delicious to the point of orgasm, right? Like it had to be that good.
uh-huh.
Otherwise, I was not satisfied. And that also usually meant having sometimes, 60, 80 ingredients on one plate.
Yep.
Maybe it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but it's like immense variety. So when I started looking at everything that I couldn't have, and it's pretty, like, yeah, I don't want to diminish. It is a reduced diet. Like to go out to any restaurant, I really can't order anything that would be fully in alignment with what I want to put in my body. And then I'll just, I'll be casual and I'll just like, oh yeah, one meal, no big deal, or something like that. If I feel like I want to do that, sometimes I don't. And then I'll get really picky about how to order something, which is depressing too. So I was terrified. This was one of my major things to deprogram in switching over to this Love Your Liver diet, was that I was going to lose the pleasure. And then it would be like, well, do I kill myself? Because like the pleasureless life is not worth living, and that's partly my addictions talking, right? The addictions to the hot peppers, addiction to the garlic, addiction to the onions, addiction to all the spices that I would use. And then never mind just the addiction to the avocado and all of these, like, scrumptious kind of delicious, um, said to be delicious foods. And when I did go over a hump, at least, the only thing that you put on your food for spice, not even pepper. Somebody said like, oh, there's only salt and pepper. It's like, no, thank you. I don't want that pepper, because it definitely is toxic. And so using only salt to flavor food, I thought, oh, that's going to be the death of me. Now, having made that adjustment, which was, there was a period where I went through mourning around it, even though I was eating this style. I was like, I kept thinking, what else can I put in here? What else could I put in here? What else? My brain like literally would be searching for ingredients that would be not toxic, which is actually impossible, by the way. So people, that's why we say low poison. There's no zero poison diet. It's not like that. So you don't have to get neurotic thinking that there's nothing to eat if you look into everything. But then I made this beautiful shift into when I would eat the simple food, which could be, ground beef and beans and maybe some rice and a piece of like sourdough bread or something like that. I went from feeling dissatisfied to now it's the same, like yum, yum, yum enjoyment while I'm eating. And then even better is that the pleasure lasts after. Like I always feel good after I eat now, 99.9% of the time. And who can say that?
Yeah. I used to think it was normal to feel depressed after eating. Yeah.
Stressed, tired, sick, nauseous.
But that a lot, I think that it's a process. I mean, you did it pretty fast, and I started this diet a year ago, but years before that, I had already slowly been eliminating sometimes the wrong things, like I eliminated all grains. And so when I went into the low poison diet, or the toxic bile paradigm, I added back some of those grains, and I realized, oh, I don't have issues with wheat, as long as it's, unfortified and unbleached and all that. And so in a way, my diet has become the most balanced I've ever been, because I stopped eating vegetables like, I don't know, like 6 years ago. And then I stopped eating chocolate when I was delving into the low oxalate diet, which helped me tremendously to eliminate or to at least stop, intoxing with copper. So I feel like it's okay for people. I mean, if you're relatively healthy, if you have some major issues, yeah, you may need to just go full on into it. But if you're just okay, and especially if you're young, like Dr. Chafee, the carnivore guy, all he eats is muscle meat and water and salt. And because he started in his early 20s, so his toxic accumulation was a lot less than somebody in their 60s like me. So you have to kind of just be gentle and allow yourself to, even if you just eliminate, all just pork and eggs, for a year, it's, and then you will lose the taste for it. You won't want it. And with this new thing, which, with the monosodium glutamate that we brought in,
Yeah,
you're
'cause
getting the umami. As a raw vegan, I really learned about, like, sweet, sour, salty, and fatty. That's in every condiment. And so I would find ways to create that. And now I'm not craving. If I ever crave something sour, then it's an indicator of something. Um, so
what would that indicate to you?
to me, um, I don't know, because sometimes it's something different. But if I do desire that, then I'll take some lemon. You
Right,
know, I
right.
mean, maybe I need some support in alkalinizing, so I'll take a little bit of that, or I'll put that into something, and that's about it. But with the monosodium glutamate, it kind of handles that whole thing of, like, the desire to feel like every flavor, the umami of something is actually there. Um, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. The sour, yeah, so same with me, right? Like all of the like the bitter and the sweet and the sour and the salty, and you needed this full complement in order to have it be the perfect, hedonistic experience. And then so with salt only, but I still enjoy. Now what I'm noticing is I'm forgetting to add apple cider vinegar just as a splash. Now I used to use apple cider vinegar as a medicine, so I would take it and I would drink it, and it got the okay from Garrett when I talked to him. Like he doesn't like vinegars in general, the effect that they have. And ferments, by the way, that was another big shift, that dropping all the ferments. All of a sudden, I didn't want all this fermented food. Now it tastes like rotting food to me. It's like, oh, it
But
was
it
always
is. It
it
is right.
always been rotting food, but I trained my mouth to think that that was fantastic because of the sour flavor. But yeah, now I'm noticing, like, I've been forgetting to put that sour flavor on there. And then lemons are so heralded as a health food, and that it can be true to a certain degree. And I think Garrett would say, like, the juice of one lemon a day, it's not too wrong. Don't eat the peel at all cost. There's a ton of poison in there. You know it because it tastes terrible, right? Just try to give a lemon peel to any child, and they're going to think you're trying to kill them.
It's
But
what hydrochloroquine is made from, is those peels from, I think it's from grapefruits, oranges, lemons. You can make your own by just using the peels, soaking it in water.
yeah,
It's
exactly, exactly.
lovely, lovely poison. I used to drink it.
Yeah, yeah. And then the lemons for me, I learned my relationship with lemons, so I'm not giving anybody advice here, but it turns out that citrates stir up copper, right? So if I have a bunch of lemon, then I will feel not good. It'll let off copper in my system, and I'll have copper symptoms, like, there's an endless list of it: tinnitus and jaw tension and grinding my teeth, which I did ruthlessly for many, many years, and insomnia and the wired tired, and shingles, for example. That's something. Although I learned recently that that also could be mercury poisoning, right?
Mm.
Because I had a mouth full of metal by the time I'm like 6, right? We just had absolutely terrible teeth, and all the baby teeth end up filled, and then they fell out, and then all the adult teeth ended up with cavities, and they were filled. So I lived with mercury in my body my whole entire life, and I have a feeling that is how things erupted in that way.
Also, citrates they help to like soften calcium oxalate stones, if you
Right.
have those. So sometimes when I
Exactly.
am craving like a tart, I feel like, oh, maybe, something's trying to move through the
Right.
kid, the kidneys, just to make sure that they don't get clogged up. But again, it's listening, it's
Yeah.
listening, and
Yeah.
it changes. It
Yeah.
changes. Yeah.
Do you think that'd be the same with the vinegar, or is that totally different? Because that's not a citrate. It's sour for a different reason.
No, yeah, it's that has, I think that has more aldehydes in it. The the vinegar, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I used that was one of my diets. Oh my God. Well, I made my mother and my poor father, they took it too. Oh God. But they forgive me now, I'm sure. Um, I would take raw apple cider vinegar, put some baking soda in it, and then drink that. because all the rage, oh, alkalinity, yeah, the problem with every disease, it's from acidity. And I used to give these lectures around, like, oh my god, like I was really good at repeating things. And it made sense to me then, it made sense. I guess it was better than I guess being methadone or a I don't know, some drug addict, doing my little vinegar and raw apple cider vinegar and baking soda. Um,
Right. Yeah, that alkaline diet. I remember taking that when I was receiving treatments from a naturopath in Vancouver for cancer. And I like, hey, it's all about acidity. I'm too acidic and I just need to be alkaline. And he looked me in the eye and he went like this and he sneered and he went, all my patients die on that diet. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it was so good for me to learn that very early on, right? More than 25 years ago, I'm learning that, but it's still never it still continued to be a growing trend. To this day, people will say, "Oh, you're too acidic. Oh,
yeah,
you have
yeah.
cancer. You're too acidic."
Mm,
Gross oversimplification.
There
of-
was there was an Italian doctor who was an oncologist, I believe, and he was doing surgery, and he found that every time he was removing cancer or tumors, he saw this white stuff around it, which was, he said, was candida. So people were like, "Oh, and the candida, like, it grows in acidic environment," where that was still the germ theory. People weren't looking at the terrain theory and looking at, like, yeah, it's a lot more complicated. And they were still blaming the crow or the maggots for killing the deer. When you see a dead deer on the road, it's the dead tissue that attracts the bacteria or the fungus. And it's also aluminum and certain heavy metals will attract. I mean, that's what they did in places where there's radioactive events. Here in Asheville, there's tons of, like, we don't know exactly where it came from, but after the hurricane, there's a lot of radioactivity. And so all the kind of more alternative farmers are using microbes, bacteria. They're putting it all over the land and in the water. But the problem is that they keep dropping more of it from the sky. So, but you need, the bacteria can, or like mushrooms, can transform something radioactive into bioavailable material. So, same thing in our bodies, every time this whole, I mean, it gets really complicated, and hard to grasp because of all the stuff that we're hearing on those medical talk shows, that they have, morning talk shows, and you have some doctor spewing about what means what. It's just kind of like, it's like the alternative world will say, oh, whatever the medical world says, turn it upside down. And that, say, don't eat eggs, eat eggs. But the medical may have it right, but it's the wrong reason that they tell us not to eat it. It's
yeah, like,
not the cholesterol, it's the poison that's being delivered in that cholesterol that is the problem.
right, right. Yeah, like my parents went low fat because they scared everybody about fat, and they were kind of onto it. They were kind of onto it, right? It was for the wrong reasons, like you're saying, but they were better than I was, gorging myself on fat bombs and
Yeah.
eating all the fatty tissue on a cut of meat and eating avocados and all that kind of stuff. And then also the scam with oh, hey Mara, I didn't notice that you're here. Nice to see you. The scam between, I can't find the comment right now, but between butter and margarine, how they pit margarine and butter at war with each other. And so yes, margarine is toxic. It's like plastic. Like, it couldn't be more unhealthy for you than to highly process these vegetable fats. But then they push you over into the butter, of course, right? Where these like gobs of vitamin A are waiting for you, plus the fat to store it. So that's an example of that exact thing that people don't realize. The natural health world was
Mhm.
invented by the Rockefellers too.
Yeah.
So
Like,
they had both. The pendulum swing. It doesn't matter what you do. You go back or you forth. You're in the same boat.
yeah, yeah, they're covering the whole spectrum, like the whole methylene blue craze that's happening in LA. It's big pharma blue shit.
Those blue people. Oh man. Hey,
Um,
can we go back to grains really quickly too? That like what a blessing to have reclaimed grains,
uh-huh.
and because they were demonized along with carbohydrates. Turns
Yeah,
out you don't actually have any brain power without
I
the
know.
carbohydrates, right? And so to be able to reclaim now, for me personally, this was the massive revelation on this diet. This isn't going to be for everybody. You have to know yourself. But so, my tendency now is if I get compromised or I get sick or I get too much stress, I start to lose weight. And then so what is the but if I eat a lot of, say, grains and carbs that are super high fiber, then I detox too fast, I get sick and I lose weight. So it's this like kind of like, bad cycle. I actually need to eat more empty carbs, right? So I might guiltily be having the bread or having the
What
toast or
do you call empty carbs? Clarify that.
yeah, so like white rice where it has very little fiber of any kind and it's just
So it's
carbohydrates.
so I mean I wouldn't want to, if I was rice, I wouldn't want to be called an empty carb because it's just low soluble fiber, but it does have it in there, but it's just a lower amount. So maybe
It's
just the
just how
right.
we've known. Like we've been taught that those are empty carbs. So I just have a title for it, so I know what to call it. But like yeah, like the guilt around that because it was all that the carbs were the evil thing. Everybody was going low carb, low carb, low carb, and I got myself to that place where I was eating low carb, but then I became like underweight. So yeah, amen to grains, and then choosing them based on the relative amount of fiber. Like I'm really happy with spelt. It's not super high in fiber, and then so it's more easily digestible, and I get enough calories. I never even counted calories. People say, "Oh, that's bunk," but it's like no, you actually need a certain amount to maintain your
Mhm.
body weight, right? So yeah.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I'm really glad to have reclaimed the grains.
Well, and also for the thyroid for women, I mean, I was grain free for probably, I don't know, maybe 2 decades or something, or from when I started all the raw meat, raw dairy, and all that. Occasionally, I would have some, but that I know was affecting my thyroid. Like my eyebrows have grown back in.
Me too. One of them.
Yeah, but like that was clearly something going on with the thyroid. But it's like I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not aiming like I gotta heal this. That's what I like about this whole approach, is that in a way every disease is the same disease, or every illness or every discomfort is the same thing. It's just the body's struggle to do what it wants to do, which is detoxify itself and nourish itself. It's nourishment and cleansing nonstop. That's what it's doing. And so whatever it is that's going on, to address it at that level, so that you don't have like the cholestasis, which is the signature for pretty much, I see that it's like at the heart of most what people label as a disease, is just an unsuccessful or an attempting to be successful detoxification. And
Yeah,
it's not pretty. So that's why sometimes the people who focus on power detox, a lot of those people, they really, again, like jumping into cold water, it puts your body into major fight or flight if you suddenly release a whole bunch of stuff that's been stored.
yeah, that
um,
gives me a headache just thinking about it. And quickly back to the thyroid too, because I know a lot of people have a issue with that. I was one of those ones that I just when you say thyroid to me, I'm just like, "Nyeh." I just do this, and maybe I have had thyroid trouble, but that didn't stop me from eventually then getting on iodine.
oh god.
Right, so I took iodine every single day, something that your body will actually make
And
and
recycle.
and recycle. Exactly, exactly. So yeah, it was fun at the very beginning. The first thing that I did was to stop all my supplements, all the vitamin C, all the spirulina. I finally was scammed into using vitamin D. post-pandemic, I started forcing my son to use it, and I took it in the winter. And I remember just going off all my supplements, and it was just like, what's going to happen?
What's
Something,
going
something
Am I
scary.
gonna die?
Ooh, exactly. And I remember waking up the first morning, and I had exponentially more energy, and I'm like, we're on to something, something good is happening here. So yeah, that iodine, it was the most expensive. Does anyone want to buy some iodine? I've got like six.
No, does anybody want to buy any organ? So many organ capsules, all organic and grass fed. I have the biggest like cemetery of. I didn't throw them away, but I took them out of my space and put them deep somewhere in case Armageddon comes and some of these people and the country folks may and I'll just be here. Have some organs. Those are good for you. Can you give me your chicken?
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
I mean, that's the only thing I'm keeping, all this tons of supplements and vitamins and oregano, P73 oregano, and oh my God, glucosamine. Oh, yeah. It's just insane, for if you saw my closet, I should take a picture of it and post it somewhere just to see. And still all these formulas of these green powders and horrific proteins.
Oh,
It's
protein powder. Should we take a pass on
protein
protein
powders
powder?
and gelatin and collagen, all these things that besides not being good on this diet, also it's not it transforms into oxalates, so that's another conversation, but they did lead me to this, so I'm grateful about that.
Right, right. Yeah, Chris was saying he took 20,000 IUs of vitamin D for a while. That
Oh,
was like a really good friend of mine. He actually did come around. Shout out to Julian Camastra. Just he did a great live stream. He's a biological dentist, and so if you go back in my live streams, you'll be able to hear super, super knowledgeable, a real science guy, but he was indoctrinated and he was doing about the same amount of vitamin D every day. And he came on my King Hero channel on Telegram and started to really argue it. And I wasn't willing to go into conflict like you're out of here or ban you or anything like that. But it was just like, okay, hold on, hold on. And then finally I arm wrestled him. I'm like, Julian, you have to look into this. You can't not look in. If you look in and you decide to look away, okay, I won't chase you after that. But so he started studying, and next thing you know, I'm getting this like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Nothing has made sense my whole life. And all of a sudden this is happening, that does make sense. So yeah, he's all over it now, which is it's a beautiful thing to watch when people
yeah.
allow themselves to continue learning. It's the hardest thing ever. I talk to people all the time that they really think that they are just so open-minded and they want to learn everything, and there's no amount of truth that they will reject. They're just going to keep going, keep going. But the reality is that I've seen is that most people have some kind of limit, and it can be very much gate kept by the fact that they make a supplement that contains the poison. Well, of course they're not going to, or something like MSG that has a really terrible reputation. And for many, many decades already, we all grew up knowing MSG was bad for your health, right?
But
And
we
then,
don't know that it's based on one research paper.
right, right, exactly. And I went to PubMed myself to verify it because I was part of the early group that was in the, kind of study group, secret behind the scenes, doing this before it went public. And then, yep, MSG is not bad at all, and you are correct. And I was able to verify. By that point, I had been so well trained by Garrett's standard of research that I could go into the PubMed and I could find out that there was no foundation. I found one study that took apart that one
Mhm.
study in great detail, every little aspect, and here's why this doesn't work, and here's why this doesn't work, and here's how this is just a pile of crap. And then so yeah, and I love MSG. Like I actually have a love affair with it, but I have to be very judicious with it. It's a powerful detoxer as well, and it can set the fireworks off. So I have to like my one little sprinkle for a day and then leave it. I pray I can use more sometime.
And that's the again, going back to the beauty of this, the listening to, because last time we spoke you said, well, try not taking the keystone minerals for a while, and I did, and wow, I
Is
had,
that
well, because mentally I assume, well, I've taken zinc and selenium before, I don't have any, but never under these circumstances. When in the past, when I took zinc, selenium, and molybdenum, which I have in the past, I felt nothing, because everything was being used up, soaked up. My body was triaging probably like crazy, and in major fight or flight, as I kept slamming in all the raw fats or the carotenoids. But to now experience my body, I've never been in this state before where I'm not constantly adding it. So now I am responding differently to things. And so removing that for a moment, I'm going, wow, that amount of zinc was setting off my copper, because I did my blood test and all that, and yeah, I had high copper. So that's why I some don't sleep as well. The moment I did just removed it for a while. So I'm going to bring it back, but I'm going to do the liquid, which you can do a really tiny amount of zinc. But also because I do eat a little bit of beef every day, so I feel like, well, maybe that's enough. So I don't want to guess. I am testing, and I'll have my next blood test maybe in a week or so. So that it's a nice combination of feeling and trusting and listening, and then also looking at the tests, the hair and the blood. you know it's just a really nice combo where I don't have to be like this kind of religious, I have to have faith and I have to believe because this person did it, and they healed that, and this, it's more intimate. It's like I'm figuring it out, I'm becoming my own authority. Yeah, thank
yeah.
you, Garrett.
Chris was saying he found the low toxin diet offensive because it challenged his beliefs, and but you were at least open minded enough to eventually accept the principles. That's great. A lot of people come to it because they're in trouble, and because nothing else worked. Everything works for a short time duration paradox, and then it stops working. And then you go on to the next thing. That's the story of my life. I would like, oh, this stopped working. I'm going to try that. That stopped working. I'm going to try that. Well, if oregano doesn't work anymore, I'm going to go to golden seal. Oh, golden seal doesn't work. Echinacea. Oh, echinacea doesn't work. I'm going to go garlic. It was just this constant moving towards the next thing and the next thing. I just wanted to circle back a little bit to protein, because this is something can often be a big discovery. And I think among women in particular who end up protein deficient, because I mean it's easy to eat in a really like delicate, dainty way, and you have the muffin and you have the carrot and then you have the apples and then this like and now I've really turned things around, and I eat no protein supplements whatsoever. I finally discovered and did the research myself to see that protein powder is a garbage product they managed to sell us as food. It's literally a garbage byproduct. And then moving towards only muscle meat in basically poultry, red meat, bison, beef, could be elk. I've got an elk stew on the stove for tonight. And but lamb, I guess, but no pork. That was something. It's funny because I trained myself to get into pork for some variety.
Me too, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So I'm busy giving up. My son's friend has the good luck, because every time I discover something again in the freezer or the fridge or the pantry that I don't eat, he's getting it all. He's like, oh, yum, yum, yum. So I'm poisoning him. He's young. He can take it. And like I remember I was turned on to protein powder by my very good friend who I love, but she told me that this protein powder was healing, that it would reduce inflammation. And I think that's another one of the big misunderstandings in the health world, is that inflammation is the enemy. And it's like, no, it's a symptom and it's actually the cure. And
Mhm.
even if it's chronic, like, yes, you don't want that. Yes, it's going to, if you have chronic inflammation in your gut, it's going to burn, and it is a sign of disease. But you're not trying to stop the inflammation. When I nearly cut my finger off, I didn't want to stop that inflammation. That my
Mhm.
body is sending all the good things. So I'm not going to ice it. I'm not going, or when I hurt my back, same thing. All I put on it was magnesium. I'm not going to ice and heat and cold and heat and cold and try to hack the system, right? Because as it turns out, hacking the system is in fact like hacking,
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The health hacks are they're mostly bunk.
And you're forcing your body to do something that either it's not ready for, or that it's just the wrong, it's not right. It's not right, but you're forcing it to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So getting on enough muscle meat protein is a game changer. I've heard several of my friends and colleagues and clients who went love your liver along with me report that just getting 50 grams of protein minimum for a woman a day changed their energy.
Yeah.
Right? So now my first meal is high protein, my second meal is high protein, and then I save carbs for the evening. That's
Mhm.
exactly backwards, where people's breakfast tends to be like the lighter carbs.
Now, do we want to bring in something, because we're kind of talking more to people who already know the principles of this? Maybe just mention how the whole system with the bile, how that works, and how it's our bile is the most it's the number one way that our body has a way to get rid of any kind of poisons, whether they are from plants or whether they are from the retinol in pork or lard, or whether it's from chemtrails or whatever, or just regular byproducts of everyday digestion. And that every day, 5% of that bile, we should be getting rid of it through our poop. We have to talk about poop. Um,
Yeah.
Conversation. I hope my future husband isn't listening, but if he is, he probably will find it charming. Let's just say. Uh, I hope. Um, and the way what stimulates us to go to the bathroom is that the bile has to touch our intestines. And so people who are, let's say, on a carnivore diet and they're not consuming any soluble fiber, and soluble fiber is what also stimulates the bile to be made, right?
Being
So
produced and released. Yeah.
yeah, so people like me who had basically just stopped all grains. I would still eat some fruits, but it's not the same. Like the bacteria was not as happy, like the Paul Saladino diet, which is dairy, meat, and some fruits and honey, right? It's not enough to move enough bile to be able to keep every day getting rid of 5%. So you every day, you little bit, as long as you're not bringing it in. And so when I started to be on this diet, I noticed that there were so many scraggling little things that I didn't realize I was still adding. Like I was still going, oh, I can still have my MSM because I like to put it in my fake coffee because it gives it an extra bitter taste. And I'm going, MSM, oh my God, that's sulfur. Shit. Okay, let that go. Then I used to do, oh, and a little bit of my humic minerals because minerals are good for you. And it's just like another version of Shilajit, plant, it's plant, high carotenoid. It's just ancient plants, right? So,
Oh yeah, is that one of the things about the Shilajit? It's actually high in vitamin A.
my conclusion is that it is, first of all, how bitter it is. And it's the same thing as humic minerals, which are basically ancient plants that have been, what's the word? Not petrified, but there's a process, but it's ancient plant material, like plants. We're not even talking carrots. We're talking wild plants, which are way higher in A. The whole planet is covered in A. The plants are more, they're the one rulers. People think that plants are something that we get to live off of. No, they want to live off of us. That's why they make themselves sweet. So we eat them so that we'll swallow the seeds, or an animal will swallow the seed and then shit out the seed somewhere else. They increase, So we're living in a world that really wants us to eat us in a weird way. I mean, I'm being a little theatrical, but when you die, you go into the ground and you provide nutrition and for the tree. So this whole thing that the new age, like, oh, nature is just friendly and loving and kind, and it wants to give to you and nourish you. And I'm like, okay, if you were to start eating everything around you, you would die like the guy in the film Into the Wild, that lived out in the wilderness, and he started eating roots. He had no food, and he basically killed himself.
Right, right. Oh, that's why I can't stand people are so romantic. I'm going to get hated over this, I'm sure, but
Well,
about
foraging. How about that? Foraging. That's a big thing in LA. Oh, forage for your food. Yeah.
right, yeah, yeah, just about the Anastasia books that they're so incredibly romantic about this. Like, oh, this wild woman, and she just eats the bugs, and she lets the ants take the toxins off her feet or something. Like just all this like. It's crap, you guys. It's crap. I don't know. I saw through that. Again,
Yeah.
it's a level of propaganda. And why did it
Russian.
become
It's a Russian psyop as opposed to an American psyop of Anne Wigmore, let's say.
yeah, but it became a North American
Yep.
psyop because
Yep.
it was then pushed into the media. People don't realize this. It's so sad. But yeah, take the what out of the Ludge out of Sheila Jate, and you get the what do you get? You get shit. There you go. There you go. I passed the test, and yeah, yeah, and one of those things also about all of those mineral supplements is that yes, there might be some good minerals in them, but you get all the ones that you don't want, and people are like, "Oh, the poison is in the dose," and this is a pile of crap. Arsenic is a poison, whether you get a little bit of it or you get a lot of it. Yes, of course, you're going to be more sick by a lot of arsenic compared to a little bit of it.
And
But
yeah, you die faster with more of it. With
right,
less of it, you can keep going until your 90s, maybe.
exactly. Metals are metals. I never knew arsenic was a metal. That's hilarious. I do know now. Do it know it now. But yeah, all of these mineral supplements are crazy. Well, we're coming down to almost to 2 hours. I don't know. Do you want to do a part two on this, or do you think we covered?
I think we probably could, and maybe this will be like part two and really part one, where we just get into like the basics,
Yeah,
like,
because we didn't talk about toxic bile paradigm.
yeah, we didn't really get into like, so that people who've never heard of this might actually be, so this way we get them interested, maybe. and then,
Right.
and then, maybe do another one where we really just get into the whole, you know, theory, paradigm.
Exactly. Oh, darn. I was just, yeah, that actually did work. I was sharing a link to Garrett Smith's YouTube channel, and you can find his Nutrition Detective website as well, just to give him credit.
Yeah.
Um, the low or the toxicity of vitamin A itself, this is not that. This is you could say that was the precursor to
That
what
was
we're talking about. And so people always say, "Oh, you're on the low vitamin A diet," and it's not true. That's why we called this "got poison," got low poison, not got poison, right? Because it's applying to multiple areas of your life, and it's it is lifestyle. It's also food, but it's not just about vitamin A, right? Vitamin D is toxic. Vitamin E is toxic. Most of the B
B.
vitamins are toxic, and then we're super deficient in niacin, which is a B3. But then they feed us things like niacinamide and is it nicotinamide is and the other poison version of that. And then they think, oh, people don't like flushing because they get scared, and then so they make a non-flush
Mhm.
medicine, which actually is poison, right? So it's coming at us from every single angle. And I just want to, at the end of this first edition of Got Low Poison, I want to give a lot of credit to Garrett Smith, who did not stop learning. He
Yeah.
didn't just learn, oh, vitamin A poison, and then call it a day. He broke ground. He continued to research. He raised the standard of researching. Now I go and I read people's article and I'm like, this is garbage. Maybe what you're saying is true, and maybe what you're saying is not true, but you're providing zero evidence. And Garrett doesn't just give you one article that supports it. He compares and contrasts multiple articles. And
Yeah.
he's learned to read how, like, an article will start out going, vitamin A is the best thing and everybody needs it, but he can prove how they actually disguise their findings.
Hmm.
And they use words like signaling and homeostatic to mean toxic when they talk about
Yeah.
something, right? So this is an incredible education that you can actually get mostly for free if you're studious and you want to go through 216 live streams on his YouTube, right? It's like a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
So I just encourage people to take the risk of keep learning.
Yeah. And you know what he's done is he's a real synthesizer, because he, like some of these diets that I was on, he was on too. He's gone
Oh,
through the
exactly.
ringer, even at such a, even I consider him a young age. He's only, I think, 49 or something, that he's gone through so many of these journeys, and he's able to do what each one of those people who, maybe he learned from and learned, like some things work but this doesn't, but he's able to do what they can't do, which is they can only see their world, and they shut off the rest. And this is what all of us can do
Yeah.
once you understand how to research. And I may need to research some other area that, I may not have maybe made the full connection. Let's say maybe histamines would be a good one for me to really research. But he's demonstrating, he's like a template. He's showing us the template to living as an authority in your own life. And that's why the people who are drawn to him, like at the office hours, most of them are like what you were saying. They're on the journey. They're not like asking for somebody to hold their hand, but they keep asking interesting questions. And I think that this is like a huge gift, and where Garrett got some of his original ideas from the low A, um, that was just, which was the work of Grant Genereux, was just focused on the low A, and Garrett took that and made it into something extraordinary that before was not accessible for everyday life. It was not accessible, especially to an older person. Like we've talked about this, like it's a different process for somebody in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, their 50s. And everybody, like Garrett says, everybody is different. We all inherited different things. We've all eaten different things, and we all have a different attitude towards what we eat. Some of us are less scared, and some of us are terrified, so it's but anybody can actually take this into their own hands and have a really fun journey with this. Very empowering. It's
Yeah.
ultimately really, really empowering to feel like, I'm taking care and supporting my biology. It's really awesome.
Yeah,
So,
fantastic. I think, while we're singing the praises of Garrett, and we'll have more chance for that, is that he has continuously admitted where he went wrong. And
mhm,
to me, this is an immense sign of credibility. It's the people that they just can't cross that threshold because they're like, oh, if I admit that what I'm doing is wrong, then I'm going to have to, what is it? I'll be punished for all of this past where I misled people. Right? I've said it that I thank God I literally fall on my knees that I never did end up the health coach because I was going that direction into nutrition and all of this kind of stuff, right? But something in me said, "You know what? I don't know. I went through my thing and yes, I survived cancer, but it's the mystery is not solved." And now I won't say that 100% of the mystery is solved, but I'll say like a really healthy 85 or 90% of the mystery is solved. That's huge. And then for Garrett to turn around and go, yes, I misled you because I didn't have the knowledge that I
Mhm.
do now. And now we're going to change. We're all going to do something different now. And right to this day, he is learning and taking on new knowledge. And even when the whole Team Calcium psyop, honestly, I feel like that was a plant to create division inside the LYL community. That's my just intuition around it. When they, started uh, accusing him of missing calcium as an electrolyte, he did a very deep dive into all of the research. And guess what he came up with? Yes, you need some calcium. And yes, you shouldn't do what all of these guys are recommending. That
Well,
you literally could end up with kidney stones and
not
heart
to do-
attacks.
yeah, he made it clear not to do the supplements, but some people may need extra calcium from food. But I'll tell you, from the community that I was in, which was all raw dairy, these people were getting all kinds of kidney stones and things like that. So, he, I think that he really communicates so clearly that it's up to each person to decide,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And yes, we do need calcium, but we probably already got too much calcium. If for anybody that ate dairy and all my leafy greens are just jammed in calcium, I'm probably now detoxing calcium, finally getting enough magnesium to do that. Right?
Mhm.
That's what it's required. That's why you end up with all the, like I think about my grandmas that were riddled with all kinds of arthritis and problems. Yeah, yeah.
My hands have gotten smaller. My
Right, less
fingers have
inflamed.
gotten smaller. I mean, we didn't even talk about all the changes that we got to experience
So
of that.
let's save that. So
Yeah,
let's save
let's
that.
say
We'll
that.
we'll get into it. Yeah, exactly. So we got a clear trajectory for next week. And thank you everyone for coming and chiming in. And then cancer is a stopgap, Kelly. You may have time. It's not over until it's over. Another big subject. We shouldn't say that word too much on this channel. It could get a flag, but we can just call it something cryptic like the big C. I want to get into also, the other rather or in addition to food around fragrance. This is
Mhm.
my God.
Yeah, I used to drink that shit. I would put essential oils, I mean, or that oregano, and I would put it in. Oh my God,
Yeah, so
it's
we'll get into that and a bunch of more stuff. So yeah, we really appreciate everybody joining in and taking part in this Got Low Poison maybe mini series. I don't know. It's a big subject. We definitely want to get into toxic bile paradigms so that those people could get a little bit of a nutshell. Sometimes it is easier to learn from newer to it people because it's like every time I went to study French, I would learn more by speaking with someone who didn't speak proficient French. They were way too ahead of me and they had no patience for me. But if I could talk to somebody who was a baby like me, then I would get practice. So I think it is useful for us to share our perception of that. And if your health doesn't make sense, this is an amazing place to begin. Shout out to Garrett Smith, like I said, and his website, nutritiondetective.com. I do recommend his work. His Substacks have come out. He's actually addressing an article. Grant Genereux discovered vitamin A toxicity, but I personally can't recommend his blog. Dagmar says his books are excellent. I haven't read them, but there's been a lot of confusion in that world. And unfortunately, he's not willing to work with Garrett, who has invited him along every step of the way to
yeah.
continue learning with him, right? Like you can't just learn one thing and call it a day. That's not what we're meant to do here.
Yeah, no, I definitely recommend the books, but they focus strictly on the A. And they're a good read, but I do not recommend his website. But not throwing out the baby with the bathwater kind of thing.
Right.
And then Anthony Mawson, another researcher that Garrett took all these things and synthesized them and has done some incredible stuff. But I think that our thing could be called not got low poison, just got poison. I kind of like, because you said you slipped and you said got poison. I'm going, that's actually closer to the truth. That it's closer to that commercial got poison. Well, there's something. There's a song in there too.
You're right. You're right. Yeah, it took us the whole episode, but you're exactly right. So that's what the next one will be.
Oh boy, I love how you do this. Oh, you're so
There you go.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right, everyone. That was really fun. Thank you for coming and research what your body really needs. Yep, indeed. And got poisoned. Yeah, there's another take on it. Got poisoned. That's a whole other chapter.
That's good too. Yeah, that's good. I
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, darn. One last question from M. What do you suggest for someone who has a cold? I'd love to answer this quickly because it is something, it's a real wake up. I made the biggest mistake. Went to an Acapulco last year and I didn't get a cold, but I got like, what people would call a terrible flu. And I did all the wrong things. And I ramped up detox while my body was dumping bile. And it was the worst. It was like absolutely the worst. So the best thing you can do when you start to get a cold is stop using all of the detox elements. Like honestly. And you need to know like in detail what that means. But I just thought I would give that a
yeah.
little bit of yeah.
Is M familiar with the your liver stuff or no?
It sounds like no, but
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. But we're gonna hang around a bit, so she might learn more.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's call it a day because there's just so much. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, enemas. Darn it! I want to talk about that too. Next time. Okay, everyone. Have a beautiful rest of your day. We will see you again Friday. I don't know what is it going to be, October something 4th or something like that. Is that true?
October 3rd. I think it'll be 3rd.
The 3rd? Okay, next week. And same time, 3 p.m. Central. We'll be here for the Yin on the Rocks show, which is with Dagmar Stansova, my beautiful co-host, and myself, Beth Martins. You can find a link below to Dagmar's YouTube, and you can see the evolution of how she has thought about food as well. So you'll go back and see her take a shot of liver. And you can visit my website, bethmartins.com, to do, if you haven't already, an archetype quiz where you can learn the path of purpose and where you're at on that right now. If you've already done it and it's been a while, you could message me for a private link to do it again. I don't recommend doing it all the time, but once in a while is good just to see where you've moved, just like testing your blood or your hair so you can see how things have progressed. And yep, much love to all. Maybe we'll talk binders actually next time as well.
Oh yeah, charcoal. Yes, Maya.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
My best friend.
Yeah. I am a fan of enemas personally. Yeah. The niacin ones in particular can be a real lifesaver. And thank you for coming. Love to you also, Chris Unheard It, and another awesome duo chat. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Lots of love for now.
Bye.
Bye.